I think everyone should have a side gig, even if they already have a great career. And before I get into it, let me just explain. You should have some sort of additional revenue stream on top of your normal job, like freelance work, creating content, or making a side business. But it's not because like the idea of like you should always be hustling or doing more and you should always be working more. And I understand that some people literally just don't have the time. You have kids, you have a family, you want to have a life outside of this and all of that. But my argument is that having a full-time job is actually more risky than being a freelancer or working for yourself these days. And so even though like when we grew up, everybody was saying just get a good career, get good grades, go to university, whatever, get a good career. Right now, I'm not so sure about this anymore.
And the thing is that I'm not sure if it's something from our generation specifically, and other generations see it differently. But from what I saw over the last 2 years, it was just friends and family that had very good positions, like an excellent career, that just got fired because budget costs, because everything is being transformed and changed in the industry. Yeah, like nothing to do with them or their work. And then they're out of a job and they've got to reconsider, especially, I mean, for friends that are my age, it's fine, they're flexible. But then they have to change everything and you start over at like 55 years old or something, and you have to
restart from zero. It's not just the salary, but it's like pretty much your entire salary, entire life depends on one stream of income. And if you lose that, you lose everything. So when you think about it that way, it's actually much more risky to have one job where like your entire life depends on one stream of income that you could lose for no fault of your own.
I think it's the same in business, right? Even in business, they're always saying you should never have just one customer, because then if you lose that customer, you lose everything, you lose your business, right? You should always have like
multiple eggs
and multiple baskets.
Exactly. And if you're a freelancer, you can have multiple clients. You usually don't depend on one. And if you lose a great client, it's going to hurt, but you're not at zero. And so if you have a full-time job, you go from like 100 to 0, just like that. That's very, very different. And it used to be in the past, I think, that like you could have like a really long career and work like 40 years plus in the same company. That's less and less the case. I actually found some numbers on this. In the 1920s to 50s, people stayed in general 10 to 20 years or sometimes even more in the same company. And that's only been going down. So in the 60s and 80s, it was about 5 to 7 years. Then in the 90s to 2000s, people stayed 4 to 5 years only. And now in the 2020 and 2020 plus, people stay under 4 years. And usually the younger people like us, usually only 2 or 3 years per job.
And do we know if it's because they quit, or if it's because they got fired or laid off?
It's both. So there's more like layoffs recently. And so we've seen like a lot of layoffs literally in the past month, Amazon and many other companies. But also because, and that was the other point, but you can get a better salary increase by changing jobs. And so on average, if you change jobs, you used to have like 8 to 15% increase in salary on average, which was 2 to 3 times higher than the 3 to 5% annual raise if you stay at the same company. And companies had this like thing where like you allocate more of the budget to actually hire other people instead of promoting internally. And you see this on the internet where people are complaining that someone new, younger than them, comes in, they do the exact same job and they have better pay, right? Stuff like that. But weirdly enough, it's been changing in 2025 because since companies are hiring less, now you actually pretty much get the same thing. So like if you stay or you switch companies, you actually get the same.
You don't get that raise. Oh, right. Yeah, that's interesting.
Just one thing I wanted to add, because that was interesting. I saw there was like an article I saw recently in the UK, especially. So that was for the new graduates that just got out of university. In the 2023 to 2024 cycle, there were 1.2 million applicants that submitted jobs to just 17,000 jobs opportunities.
That's insane. Yeah.
So it's like 70 applicants for one position.
On the other hand, like freelancing is also really hard, right? You have to fight for your customers. And there's also like, depending on the field you're freelancing in, like, I mean, there's tons of side gigs you could do. It could not only be freelancing, but if we're talking about freelancing specifically, you're in a very competitive market as well. And it's not something you can easily do after your 9 to 5. You need to build it over time. Like it's a long project.
I mean, it's definitely not going to be easier. That's not the thing. So for sure, it's not something like, I don't want to be one of those guys that says, just start a business, whatever, you know. It's definitely not going to be easier. But at some point, it's just like, okay, you need to have more control over your thing. And one thing was like, people say that there's no loyalty anymore in employment. So companies don't care about you. So at some point, like you don't care if you're always changing companies as well. So it feels like you can't count on any of that, and you kind of have to go and make your own thing. And so it could be freelancing, could be content creation, it could be another side gig or starting a small business or whatever that is. But it's just like the idea that you can just rely on one single salary.
Yeah, scary, scary.
Yeah, not so much anymore.
Yes.
Not so much. And so, yeah, no, that was about it.
Yeah, it's scary. And that's also one of the reasons we're building Lin, right? It's just like we want to help freelancers find more opportunities more easily. And it's been like our long-term startup project, just trying to help with a job board and like job opportunities that get recommended to you specifically every day. So you don't have to spend hours of your day just hunting for jobs. They just come to you once a day with like an email or like WhatsApp.
You just find those opportunities all over the internet. I'm pretty happy because I just published the new Chrome extension. So you get opportunities from Twitter and LinkedIn as well. So like from your own network and extended network. That seems to be working pretty well. People seem happy. But yeah, freelancing is definitely not easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what do you think? What was it? Genius or stupid?
I don't know if it's genius or stupid. It's just more like nonsense, or I would follow that advice or that idea. And let's say, I follow that idea for sure. But I also agree that it's not that easy. And especially I've never had a real job, right? I've done millions of gigs, like sometimes too many gigs at once. And it's really hard for me to focus. And I feel like, especially if you do a 9 to 5, I feel like it takes a lot of mental energy. And like after your day is done, you're just tired because it's draining you. And then when you have to start a new project at the same time, I feel like it's super hard. Whereas when you're already completely in the freelance space, you just know, like, you know how to allocate your energy probably a bit better. And you don't have that big part of the day that is just sucked somewhere else.
Transition phase that is probably very actually. That's because that was just one thing I found is like there was like a report by Upwork in 2025, and they interviewed a bunch of freelancers, independent workers, and employees, etc. And it said 65% of independent workers feel more secure working independently rather than a traditional full-time job. I was surprised by that, actually.
I feel like for me, that's 100% the case, right? Especially with my health conditions and everything. If you guys watch the videos, you might know about all of them. But it's just like, if I had an employer, I would feel so uncomfortable. Like every time I feel a little sick or I have an issue with my blood sugar or like a problem, and you're just like, can I just not come this morning? Or can I just like skip today and then I'll just work extra that night? And I feel like I would just get fired in 2 days because it's just, it's just too annoying.